Obama-Biden nurtured terrorism throughout the world.
Yeah.
Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmidt Tonight. With the election of Barack Obama and Joe Biden in 2008, the face of American foreign policy was radically changed. Emphasis there on radical. Obama, the original American apologist, was on a mission to alter America's presence in the world. America was dramatically weakened, and Obama was especially soft on the Middle East. A Politico article explained how Obama, desperate for the original Iran nuclear deal, worked to end an ambitious law enforcement campaign aimed at Iranian proxy terror group Hezbollah, which was raising money for terrorism by trafficking cocaine into the United States and trafficking weapons around the world.
Jeez.
America went from pounding terror groups into submission to enabling them and hoping that they return the favor by being nice and committing less terrorism. Keep that all in mind as Obama's third term stumbles into a potential world war right now. The Obama-Biden spineless, guilt-ridden, apologist foreign policy team is acquiescing to the world's terror groups, and they do it by making them rich with either pallets of cash, unfrozen assets, or high energy prices. Today, one of the few reporters left in Washington pointed out the simple fact that American foreign policy has loaded up the coffers for Iran, of course, the banking center for most of the terrorism in the world. Watch as Karine Jean-Pierre pretends to not understand this very basic and very undeniable allegation.
Iran makes 70% of its revenue from oil. It's doubled that oil output since 2019, adding $40 billion to revenues. So the president's current energy policies giving Iran enough money to fund terror groups?
I wholeheartedly disagree that our actions are giving. Is that what you're saying?
When you restrict supply here in the United States, it's forcing to get the global supply from somewhere else. OPEC is cutting prices of oil, so the price of oil goes up.
Yeah, and we're not part of OPEC.
As the price of oil goes up, is that giving Iran enough money to fund these terror groups?
There seems to be a big jump. And so, certainly, I'm not going to speak into that type.
I think that's a wig.
Hypothetical. It sounds like a hypothetical that you're asking me. So certainly, I'm not going to weigh into this.
She just has no idea what he's talking about. It sounds insane. It sounds like a hypothetical. It's a conspiracy theory. The disingenuous, totally unqualified press secretary claimed. Once upon a time, the United States used a heavy hand on the evils of the world. It's rarely reported, but Hezbollah is not confined to the Middle East or Lebanon. Hezbollah, thanks to big money from Obama-Biden, is everywhere. A Politico article from 2017 outlined how the terror group had expanded into Latin America, into Mexico. The article explained how Trump was trying to go after Hezbollah in America's own backyard, Hezbollah in Mexico. The Trump team on a mission to counter all the wealth and expansion that a Shia militia terror group had seen under his predecessor. Hezbollah now has a political foothold in nations all around the world. You probably never imagined you would live in a country where one president would appease terror groups by making them wealthier and more dangerous. But you did from 2008 to 2016, and now you do again. And the incompetence doesn't end with the Biden administration. It extends to the anti-Israel globalist embarrassment that we refer to as the United Nations. It's about what you'd expect from the UN, but last week, just 10 days after a Hamas massacre, one of the worst events we've ever seen, funded and supported by Iran, as we know, well, the UN allowed its missile sanctions on Iran to expire. Just let it go. Opening up even more money for Iran to support terrorism and these kinds of heinous acts all around the world. That's your United Nations, with its headquarters right here in New York City. The socialist who leads the UN has openly lacked any outrage in the wake of the Hamas massacre. When he finally did speak, his message to the world was, yeah, but Israel kind of deserved it. Take a look.
Oh my God in heaven. Good God.
It is important to also recognize the attacks by Hamas did not happen in a vacuum. The Palestinian people have been subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation.
Bullshit.
They have seen their land steadily devoured by settlements and plagued by violence, their economy stifled, their people displaced, and their homes demolished.
Israel's fault. That's the guy that runs the UN. That's what he said publicly as the head of the UN. Now imagine what he really thinks. Think about that. As I often say on this show, we do give credit when and where it is due, and today our Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, did lay a pretty heavy dose of guilt on the UN Secretary General. Right now, the Biden administration is desperate to conceal their obvious share of responsibility for the situation in Israel. They know that they've stirred the pot with their policies. They helped Iran fund all of this by dumping money on them. Their Middle East policies have turned the world from incredibly quiet to a lit match sitting on top of a tank of gas. They know they have a pending disaster on their hands, and today Tony Blinken continued the work of attempting to calm down the Middle East he stirred up and contain the Holocaust-style aggression toward the Jews that we've seen just flare up over the last couple weeks. Take a look.
Babies riddled with bullets. Young people hunted down and gunned down with glee. Young people beheaded. Families burned alive in their final embrace. Parents executed in front of their children. Children executed in front of their parents.
Bitch behind him sleeping? What is she doing?
And so many taken hostage in Gaza. We have to ask. Indeed, it must be asked. Where is the outrage? Where is the revulsion? Where is the rejection? Where is the explicit condemnation of these horrors? We must affirm the right of any nation to defend itself and to prevent such horror from repeating itself.
It was actually a pretty good little speech there. Now, where's the outrage? Well, a lot of it died with Obama, the guy that's currently running his administration.
Yeah, exactly.
The outrage is not at the UN. The UN, as we know at this point, hates Israel. That's how screwed up the UN is. Hating Israel is the fashionable new thing for the always fashionable far left. And by the way, after Obama loaded up Iran with enough money to fund Hezbollah's expansion all over the world, and Trump came in and began the process of dismantling all of that chaos, well, now Biden has arrived, and his administration takes things even one step further. Opened the southern border while enriching terror groups like Hezbollah, who have militants operating in Central America and in Mexico.
They're here. They're in this country.
Think of doing
They're here already, baby.
Look at just the migrants CBP has apprehended from dangerous ideological places all around the world. Shows 659 apprehended from Iran and 164 from Hezbollah's home country, Lebanon. And those are just the ones that were caught. The Biden administration opening up the border while dumping money on international terror groups. Not even Obama was that crazy.
He is now because he's running the show.
Investigation into Hezbollah's drug running and money laundering operations in South America. He joins me now along with Mark Morgan, who ran Customs and Border Protection under Trump. Gentlemen, good to have you both on. Derek, first, I just want to start. How insane is it in this moment to have an open border when we know that we have a terrorist faction that operates in Mexico to our south?
Absolutely not.
Well, it's beyond insane, and thank God Mark's on the line here with me, because Mark, Tom Homan, Rodney Scott, under President Trump, they created the safest border we've ever seen. But here's what I want to show the audience here, Rob. This is what I received from Admiral Stavridis in Southern Command, U.S. military, in 2007, when we started seeing under the Obama administration Hezbollah's efforts with the Mexican cartels moving $200 million a month in one scheme that we uncovered. And they were moving the proceeds of over 80,000 kilograms of cocaine for the cartels. But what's disturbing, Rob, is they had cars that they were buying all over America, used cars, and sending them to West Africa to sell, to support Iran's massive radical agenda. Hezbollah, as the proxy, was helping Iran develop funding after the 2006 war with Israel. So now it's a disaster like we've never seen.
Mark, the administration has created an app to make it easier for people from all over the world to apply for asylum, which we all know is fake.
Holy
These
shit.
people aren't asylum seekers. The administration dreaming up the most self-destructive ideas possible to implement as quickly as they can. And now we are approving migrants. Look at all of these
God
countries
help
we
us
approve.
all. We're already done. It's
all
going
over
to
the
cancel
world.
all of
Middle
us
East,
out. The
Africa,
citizens are
inviting
going to
them
be in the
walk right
minority.
in and you can just
Anybody
apply on it.
is going to.
Yeah,
We're
look,
gonna have to
you
leave.
talked about this, you and I have talked
Where
about
can
this
we go?
before. This
We gotta
represents,
find
now
somewhere
we
to
have
go.
confirmation of what we
Run
refer
away
to as
now.
the shell game. They simply, to avoid bad political optics, rather than actually stemming the flow
Yeah,
of
take
illegal
our
immigration
country
and
back.
securing our border,
Idiots.
they simply created this app and they're bringing illegal aliens through a front door and they're calling it a legal pathway, and it's not. It's a violation and perversion of the law. And this is very important. This element's very important. A lot of people think that because of the CBP1 app and we're flying them in, that somehow we're vetting them. They're not.
No, they're
That's
not
the
vetted.
big lie,
They're
Rob.
not vetted.
Let me
They're
give you a
just-
quick example.
they're just
A 30-year-old
accelerating
Lebanese
the
single adult male that applies for the CBP1 app and he comes on over. Yeah, we're going to ask him a question. Hey, we want to make sure. Now, do you sympathize or are you a Hezbollah terrorist? Well, of course not. Okay, well, no, check. And then we're going to go and we're going to coordinate with the Lebanese government and say, hey, is this guy a terrorist, by the way? Oh, no problem. Go ahead and let him in. I mean, Rob, that's what we're doing. It's insanity. We're relying on what the individual says. We're not getting anything reliable from these countries, yet we're letting them into our country every single day.
Yeah, I think people have this idea that there's this intense vetting process. You got all these agents questioning this guy in a room. It's like, what a crock that is. We know none of that's happening. We know it's probably some 23-year-old that just got out of college with pink hair asking one question and saying, come on in, we want you here anyway.
And Rob, real quick, so you're absolutely right. And then in addition to that, though, do we really think we're going to get something legitimate back from Pakistan, from Yemen, from Syria, from Lebanon, from Iran? Of course not.
Yeah, what kind of government do they run? Do they even know who their people are? Derek, explain how the Obama administration shut down your efforts to get Hezbollah out of Mexico and out of Latin America. You know, but they wanted to get the Iran nuclear deal done. Hezbollah and Iran are basically the same thing. Iran funds Hezbollah. They basically shut this down in order to make this deal possible.
Well, the Iran deal was the #1 priority, and they really didn't provide the resources and support that we needed, even though this was the highest infiltration that I'm aware of by DEA working with the other agencies into a Hezbollah trade-based money laundering scheme that was supporting, Iran. But you got to remember, we were seeing like literally billions of dollars moving into bank accounts in America, going to car businesses in America run by Middle Easterners. And I always had a fear. Eric Holder once asked me, what keeps me up at night? And I said, well, actually that fireball slide, when narco-terrorists and Islamic terrorists come together. But really what was keeping me up at night is I knew and I heard there was sleeper cells potentially coming into America even back at that time. Wow. So what would happen if there was a war in the Middle East? Maybe all these people then would be radicalized in America. But now we have that, plus a wide open border with all these unknowns. Millions of unknowns in our country. It's really scary, Rob.
It's really scary. It's self-destructive. It is what it is. It's intentionally self-destructive. Mark,
it is intentional.
Monumental shift in foreign policy.
This country's done.
Obama ushered in this capitulation to the evils of the world.
I feel like we have
You've
to
got
look for
this
another
guilt-ridden
country
policy
that we can escape
from our new left-wing leaders that are just great apologists for what's supposed to be a great nation. We thought was a great nation.
Yeah, Rob, this is very important. So we talked about, we throw terms around like appeasement, and they're trying to reach normalization relationships with Iran. We know is the largest harbor and facilitator of terrorist organizations. They sponsor proxy terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas. But this is way beyond. We have to understand why the failed nuclear deal, why the $6 billion, why the refusal to enforce sanction. And I want to read something. These are not my words. Under Obama, his then director of national security, Brennan, these are his words. Quote, Hezbollah is a very interesting organization. Quote, purely, they are no longer purely a terrorist organization, but, and it goes on to quote them as being a legitimate political party. That's the difference. Under President Trump, we said that's BS. We're not going to fall prey to the terrorist organization and the sponsor state.
Look what Ashley Moody's saying about Florida.
Organization. But that's what Obama and that's what the Biden administration looks at them to be as a legitimate political organization.
Should be more than just
It's
a warning.
terrifying.
They
The
should
level of
close the
incompetence
border
that
immediately
exists
and
in our
throw our
government.
He's not gonna close the border.
But they're not. No,
It's too late, anyway.
It's too late, but still, they should do it now.
And they're still coming in.
We are
Yeah,
commercial
pouring in every
free
day.
tonight, by the way, as we continue our
Disgusting.
commercial free power hour.